Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Thursday morning, the 9th of November. I'm going to talk about the Delphi case today, but first I've got some updates from a couple of other cases that I'm following. If you're just here for Delphi and nothing else, I'm going to put a timestamp on the screen right now where the coverage of Delphi starts, so you can zip on straight over to it. So last night I had a little TikTok spree. Made a couple of TikToks and I'm going to play them for you. First, Murdaugh, you know, the one who was convicted earlier this year of the murder of his wife Maggie and his son Paul. Well, he wants a new trial. His attorneys a little while ago said that the court clerk, Rebecca Hill, jury tampered, and she's come back with a reply. Listen to my TikTok. Disgraced South Carolina attorney Murdaugh, who was convicted of the murder of his wife and son earlier this year, wants a new trial. Recently, his lawyers alleged that the clerk of court, Rebecca Hill, engaged in jury tampering. She was having, clandestine meetings with the jury foreperson and telling them they had to be quick with deliberations and don't believe what the defence was saying. All that kind of stuff. Well, she's back. Rebecca has spoken. She's denying all of it. In a sworn affidavit to prosecutors, she said this did not happen. She did not jury tamper. So, will Alec get a new trial? And, as his lawyers want, will Judge Newman be out of future cases? She's denied it all in a sworn affidavit, so let's wait and see what the response is. Secondly, this is really, really disturbing. Yesterday in court, Cory Bigsby's letters were read out. So who's Cory Bigsby? Cory Bigsby is the dad of 4-year-old Cody Bigsby. Cory claimed that Cody just disappeared one night. So this is, I think it was like the 30th or 31st of January 2022. So he saw him at 2 a.m, got up at 9 a.m, and Cody had gone. So there's been a massive amount of searching for Cody. Anyway, he's been confessing in a series of letters, but telling very different stories. So let me play you the TikTok that I made about that too. Disturbing details heard in court today about missing 4-year-old Cody Bigsby. If you remember, if you've been following this case, his dad, Cory Bigsby, said that he just disappeared in the middle of the night in January 2022. Well, the court today heard various confessions that Cory has made. In this letter, he said that he just stepped out for a minute, and when he went back in the house, Cody was unresponsive and he tried CPR, but instead of ringing 911, he put him in his car and then took him somewhere to dispose of the body. And a really disturbing letter that was found in his cell said that on the 18th of June 2022, he punched Cody so much that he had a cardiac arrest. And that's murder, guys. Horrible. His defence are claiming that he's making confessions because he's being coerced, he's being threatened, like saying he can't see his family unless he confesses. All right, okay. All right, it does happen. We know it happens. We know very well it happens, right? But in this instance, I think Cory is guilty. I think the cops got his number straight away. Right, as soon as he reported Cody missing, he went in for questioning and he's never come out. Well, he has now. He's now out on bail, which I find bizarre because when he was being held on child neglect charges, he wasn't granted bail. Now he's been charged with murder. He has. I don't know. Don't know what's going on there. This is Hampton in Virginia, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, in one confession, he said that he'd gone outside for a little minute and then came back. Cory had fallen down steps and was unresponsive. So instead of calling 911, decided to administer CPR, go outside and pray, but nothing worked. So he put him in his car, left him there for 3 days, and then went and took him somewhere in Maryland, right over the border. And then, in a very disturbing confession, he said he'd punched Cory so much that he had a cardiac arrest, and it was then he tried CPR and praying and all sorts of stuff, but then took him and was going to put him in a receptacle, but then buried him, and then all sorts of things, right? Really horrible, horrible events. What's true, I don't believe for a moment that Cory fell down steps, or else he'd have just called 911. Surely you'd just call 911 rather than just putting your kid in a car, you know, and leaving their dead body there for 3 days before deciding what to do with them. I've said this about the Summer Wells case. It's exactly the same argument. I don't think any parent would do that if the kid had an accident. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think they would. So I think Cory did something to Cory. What that is, where his body is, I just don't know. Horrible. Poor little boy. 4 years old. I don't know. All right. Over to the Delphi case.
It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Before an angry Andrew Baldwin left the courthouse, 13 News overheard him speaking to Richard Allen's wife, saying, "It ain't over. The world's watching. The world sees what's going on."
I'm in the middle of watching Defense Diaries, so every time Defense Diaries does a video and live stream, I get emails and correspondence saying, go and check out Defense Diaries. I'm checking out Defense Diaries. Look, it happened overnight my time, so yeah, I'm aware that Cara Wernicke, am I saying her name right or not? I don't know, was on Defense Diaries last night, but I'm not going to comment on that because I haven't watched it all. I've started watching it. I'm into like the first 20 minutes, but I'm not going to comment on that in this video because I've not listened to the whole thing. All right, so what I want to talk about, though, is the Murder Sheet podcast. Every time I mention the Murder Sheet, I get people in my comments saying, if you don't watch the Murder Sheet, like, religiously, if it's not something that you do as part of your daily life, then you don't know the Delphi case. Well, nonsense. But you're entitled to your opinion, okay? Now, I think they're being really disingenuous. They're clearly on the side of the prosecution, which is fine, all right? The battle lines are drawn, which is fine. That's not why I've got a problem. I've got a problem for a couple of other reasons, though. So, in their latest podcast, they had a couple of prosecutors on. One was called Brett. I don't know what the other one was called. But anyway, I'm going to play you a minute or so of their latest podcast. So this came out on Tuesday. Listen to what this guy, the guest, says.
And they see some of this stuff, and we get emails from them saying, something's not right here, something's fishy, something's corrupt in Carroll County, Indiana. What would the two of you say to those people who have those concerns?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing I would say is that's why this case concerns me so much and why we've spent so much time on it, because you're right. There are people who are watching this who don't pay attention, and it's very easy when you're not used to the minutia of all the weird stuff that actually happens before a trial. I mean, the before a trial can be sort of contentious. I mean, this one's been way worse than anything I've ever seen before. But I mean, I think the thing to remember about this is, and this goes back to something I said earlier, remember what they're accused of doing. There's a protective order over this incredibly sensitive stuff. And as we've said before, imagine the police had done this. Imagine the police had released, not intentionally, but had acted in such a negligent way that photographs of two murdered young girls were out in the public. Imagine a police officer had done that. Imagine a prosecutor had done that. Imagine that's how this came out. How would you feel about that? How would you feel about those people? Would you say, oh, no harm, no foul. Everybody makes mistakes. It was a friend. He trusted him. You probably wouldn't say that. You probably would think something should happen to this person. There should be some punishment. That's really bad.
So if the cops did that, how would you feel? If the cops leaked sensitive crime scene information, how would you feel? Would you feel the same as if the defence had done it? Well, chew on this. They have done it. They have done it. Listen. Okay, so this is my channel. Right, a few days ago, I made this video. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm going to play you a little bit from Court TV and podcaster Barbara McDonald.
More about this. Joining us right now in studio, co-host and producer of Down the Hill, the Delphi Murders podcast, and Court TV senior writer Barbara McDonald is with us. Barbara, let's start here, okay? You've seen different depictions of those stick formations that everyone's talking about now, these stick formations on the two girls. What have you seen? And let's begin with Abby.
All right, so I've been hearing about these stick formations and this image on the tree for a very long time, and very different characterizations than what's in this memorandum. Sources close to the investigation have provided me with drawings of what they say those images look like, the arrangement of those sticks. So let's start with the one of Abby, and it shows 3 sticks. Now, we have not placed her body here because this is how it was provided to me. We don't know exactly what the positioning on top of her was like, but this is supposed to be a representation of what the image looked like, the way the sticks were formed. Now let's put up the image from Libby. And there's 5 sticks involved here by my count. And you can look at these and decide if they look like something to you or look like they're randomly placed. I have spoken to many investigators who were on the scene at the time who say the assumption was they were randomly placed. They did not see a pattern. They didn't see intentionality there. The other thing we have an image of is what was depicted on the tree. And it's described in this memorandum as being the letter F, a rune painted in blood.
Blood, right?
That was tested. According to the memo, it's Libby's blood.
Okay.
According to the
That's
memo.
what the defense is saying.
Yes. I have not heard that part of it from my sources, but I was given a rendering of what the blood on the tree, or whatever the substance on the tree appeared to be. And
that's what we're looking at right now.
This is more accurate. Several of the investigators told me they thought that it was a perhaps partial handprint of the person who committed the crime, leaned up against the tree, and that's how it was placed there.
So for the longest time, Barbara McDonald, a podcaster, a civilian, just a member of the public, has been receiving crime scene information at her own admittance from several investigators. How do you feel about that? Anybody supporting the prosecution, which is your right to do? Isn't it exactly the same thing? I'm not saying any of it's right. I'm just saying that there's been leaks all the way through this case. So don't play holier than thou on the murder sheet, which has got like a big following, and they're on Court TV every other night. Don't come on there saying, how would you feel if the police officers done it? Well, they did it. And they did it intentionally. Not somebody coming in and, without your knowledge, photographing photographs and then distributing them to podcasters. No, this is intentional, and this has gone on throughout the case. So how do we know that the investigators haven't leaked the pictures of the girls at the crime scene? How do we know? So chew on that. All right. Second thing that I find annoying is, I can't remember which video it was now. I think it might have been Battle Lines. I can't remember, but it was one recently, a few days ago, where I talked about the murder sheet saying that when they were in court on the 31st, David Hennessy, who is Andrew Baldwin's lawyer, like the lawyers have lawyers, the judge has lawyers, it's a whole thing. The murder sheet said that David Hennessy was very unprofessional beforehand, before the judge came into court, so before proceedings started, that he was very loud and he was saying things about libretto and screaming and how unprofessional he was. Okay. Well, Bob from Defence Diaries was there, and it was him that David Hennessy was talking to before proceedings started. And Bob says that David Hennessy did nothing of the kind. Now, this is on the channel It's a Crying Shame. So this is from a few days ago. Listen.
And, and we had chatted prior to, but had never met personally. So I, of course, introduced myself. and we start shooting the shit. We're talking to each other, and to my direct left is Kevin of Murder Sheet and Anya. They were sitting to my direct left. So this comment by Who Dis, and I had heard that they had made this comment on one of their podcast episodes about how loud Hennessy was in court on the 31st. Anya says he was loud and running his mouth, not being professional, but I didn't notice that. Yeah, neither did I. And I was sitting right next to him. He was giving me, and we're talking about a guy that we just told you has not tried 100 murder cases, but has won 100 murder cases. And so he was giving me the down low on Labredo and Scremin. That's what he was doing. Labredo, he said he didn't know jack shit about him. That's what he said about him. Nothing. Didn't say anything negative about him. And this is all before the judge is out. So this whole he's speaking loudly, unprofessionally in court is ridiculous, because this is long before the judge came out. And this is when we're all sitting in the gallery, because they open it up an hour early. So we're all sitting there talking, and I'm shooting the shit with David. And, as far as Scremmins, he basically said, he's okay. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't shitting on anybody. I mean, the only person that he cracked a joke about was the judge. It was a Halloween joke, which I told Sonny. I'm like, I'm not going to say it in public, but it was funny, So he's a criminal defense attorney. If you've ever hung around with criminal defense attorneys, they're not typically buttoned up suit guys. They're typically, they're going to talk, and they're typically have pretty good personalities. And David Hennessy is no exception to that. I happen to adore him. So I take a little bit of exception to them trying to cast him in that light.
So who do you believe? Both parties were in the court. So Bob was sitting near Kevin and Anya from the murder sheet. It was him that was talking to David Hennessy. So who do you believe? I don't know. I wasn't there. Neither were you, I'm guessing. But if you were there, if you did sit on that side of the courtroom, what did you hear? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Finally, before I sign off, the Supreme Court Chief Justice Loretta Rush has written to Francis Gull saying, you must release the transcript of the proceedings in chambers on the 19th of October, which Brad Rosie has requested, but it's all been denied. So, yeah, you got to release it, or explain why you're not. Okay, let's see what she says. Right, November 16th. I'm going to call it there for today, and I may be back later if there are developments. I caveat all my videos on Delphi with I'll be back later if there's something new. But until then, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.